Good morning, everyone. Good Friday, everyone. It is the 19th of January. We have a snow day here in London, Ohio. So my son is home from school. All the schools have been closed, and it's been nice for him. It's been nice and quiet in the house. Not at all. Anyway, so here's the deal. If anyone from London football team is watching this, which I hope they're not, we will be training at the normal time. So find a way to the gym. If not, call your buddies. They'll get you there. So we are going to get started. We already have a bunch of questions here. And earlier, when I first posted the thumbnail, the chat comes up. And someone asked a question on, I think, Wednesday, and I actually answered the question. For whatever reason, my answer on his question, my answer don't appear anymore. So what I would probably, I'm going to answer that first. He asked, and I kind of have to paraphrase this. When I have returning athletes come back, how do I determine their training maxes, when it's the off season and stuff like that? And the answer is we never take a break from training at London. We generally train year round through the football season. We're training incredibly hard. And if you're playing other sports, you're training too. So once you are in the football program, you're just training right through until you graduate. So that's just the way it goes. So we don't actually have to refine training maxes and see where kids are at because we're always there. So, and guys, it's, we harp on this all the time about being consistent. And I think that's one of the key components of any winning program, especially if you don't have all the athletic talent and stuff like that, is the more consistent you are, the better off you're going to be. And magically, the more consistent, the more games you're going to win. So anyway, we got a lot of questions here. So Taylor Ham, we'll start it off. He says, hey, Jim, I took the advice last week. I got pig iron dumbbells. I don't know what those are. And they are a game changer, especially for heel elevated dumbbell squat. I read 5-3-1 forever and set up my cycles. My body feels much better. I'm cutting out some of the barbell assistance and I can push conditioning a little bit more. Thanks again for doing these. All right, just so everyone, I don't really remember Taylor's question, but it looks like he was trying to do everything at once. So he's trying to raise his barbell work, raise his assistance work, and raise his conditioning. And guys, whenever you're training and you're trying to, getting stronger, get bigger, get in better condition, all that other stuff, the worst thing you can do is just do everything on the level 10. And training is always like a recipe. You can't just throw a pound of everything into the pot and hope it tastes good. There's got to be a little bit of this, a lot of that, and obviously you season to your own taste and stuff like that. So don't expect to get a lot out of just throwing as much shit against the wall as possible and hoping stuff sticks. It may work for a little bit, but it won't work very well, and especially if you are an athlete or have some kind of experience in the weight room where you're kind of dialed in a little bit, because that's going to just run you in the ground. All right, Bob Branksley says, do you plan repeating cycles in advance or only when needed? Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Like, we always repeat cycles at London because we want kids to own weights, and we use the weightlifting and weight training and the training itself to build their general fitness. So I don't chase numbers. I'm not terribly concerned with the numbers. I'm terribly concerned with how they do the reps. And as long as they're consistent, the bar speed is awesome. So if you want to be honest, I can probably take a kid and over use 3 cycles over a year, and I guarantee I can get the kid stronger just repeating the same basic weights. So yes, we do repeat cycles. We usually repeat 2 cycles in a row. And then obviously, if I don't like what I see, then we may have to repeat it again. But yes, we do repeat each cycle twice. And we just seems to work out better. The quicker that we add weight to the bar, the worse we're always are. The more patient we are, the longer we can draw the cycle, the stronger we get overall, by far. It's not even close. All right, Sammy Lee says, what do you think of different versions of 5-3-1 within the same 4-week cycle? For example, he writes, deadlift, not doing jack shit, bench, boring but big, squat, boring but strong, and overhead press, he'd use the triumvirate. Yes, of course. A lot of the programs I've written, especially in the Forever book, combine different things. Obviously, if you've read that, one of the more famous things I wrote for T-Nation was the 5-3-1 for hard gainers. Boy, those guys are a lot of blowhards, huh? Guys who label themselves hard gainers. I'd say probably 15 years ago, those guys blew harder than the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys. But today, I think they've kind of replaced just giant blowhards. But anyway, yes, because every lift is going to respond differently to different assistance or supplemental work. So without a doubt, if you know how to balance that stuff, we talked about having the perfect recipe. And remember, guys, you have to understand, like, what you do on bench day is going to affect how you deadlift. And how you deadlift is going to affect how you press. So everything needs to work together. And just understand, if you're really trying to raise your deadlift, for example, and you're really pushing that, and whatever you need to do to push that, a lot of times that's going to tank your squat or tank your bench press. Not everything's going up, guys. It doesn't work like that. Like I said, it works like that when you're 16, 17, 18. But as you get older, guys, things are going to be just juggling. And sometimes you can't control what's up and what's down. But I will say this. When things are going good, ride it out, man. Enjoy it. All right. Don't look for the reasons why. Don't freak yourself out. You have your training log. You can always come back and see, why things are. Maybe you can analyze that. But during the time, man, let it ride. All right. Let it ride. If you're dating a really amazing hot model chick, just don't question. Just go. Just go with it. Date her. Enjoy it. Okay. Zach writes, what are your thoughts on TRT? I'm not sure really what that means. Like, what are my thoughts? If you need it, do it. I don't know why anyone wouldn't do it. I don't know anyone that would voluntarily want to have low testosterone, but that's just me. So I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of confusion with that I don't know. But it's like, what are your thoughts on having diabetes? You should probably not have diabetes. All right. John Donovan says, hey, Jim, I love how you wrote at Jim, John. Like someone else is going to answer this, but I'm just busting your balls, brother. All right. Which 5-3-1 program are you most proud of creating? I guess you mean what 5-3-1 template you're most proud of creating. I don't really have one, to tell you the truth. The crazy thing is, I've said this many times before, but I wrote the entire 5-3-1 book, and then I wrote kind of the introduction part first, the first part of the book, so to speak. And I spent a long time doing all this stuff and doing all this training stuff and writing all this stuff out. And it wasn't until I wrote everything out that I realized that everything's, these X principles are the most important thing. The sets, the reps, all that stuff, that's all interchangeable. You can do any kinds of sets, any kind of reps that you want, as long as they're based on these principles. And it was the most freeing thing I've ever felt in my life, because no matter what I'm doing, no matter what program I'm doing, no matter what sets and reps I'm doing, stuff like that, what exercises, how we're programming the lifts and stuff, as long as I stick with these principles, which I firmly 1,000 billion% believe in, I'm going to be okay. I can make it work. And so I'm not most proud of any program, because I think they're all just kind of interchangeable in a way. Doesn't mean they're all going to work for you. It doesn't mean they're appropriate for everyone at all times. But look at that. He knows that's Mason. He's calling me, that son of a bitch. He knows I'm online. All right. So anyway, if you're watching this, Mason, I know you did that on purpose. So anyway, I'm most proud really about doing all that work and kind of like taking a massive step back and realizing like, oh my God, this is what I believe. It was probably the one of the most significant parts of my training life, so to speak, and coaching life and all that other stuff. It was like getting, I guess they call it, the Matrix, like when you, I guess a red pill. I don't know which pill it is, but it's the pill that you actually see the reality. So, all right. Zach. I can't pronounce your last name, Zach. Kosho, whatever. But your name is Zach, and your last name starts with a C, ends with a W. He writes, does Zach, I was super beat up. I put the barbell down for 3 weeks and just did walrus and kettlebell stuff, and it's been great. Thank you for your insight. That's perfect, Zach. There's a lot of different ways to train, and a lot of different ways to train for each one's preparedness and readiness. As an example, I use this all the time. You wouldn't expect a guy who's 50 years old and has done yoga most of his life. You wouldn't expect him to walk into Westside and do everything that the Westside guys are doing. Just like if you trained at Westside for 20 years, you wouldn't put him in an advanced yoga class and expect him to do all the stuff that they're doing. So there's always certain things that are appropriate at the time. And it looks like for you at that time, Zach, that's what you kind of needed. And listen, as long as you're active and you don't take time off, you're really not going to get much weaker as long as you're doing something. And as the other thing is, if you feel like you're kind of run down, not just physically, but mentally, and you just need a break, take the break, man. Go do something else. Life is too short to, just pound the hammer, so to speak, into the nail, even if it's all bent and rusty and it's not going anywhere. So I hope that works out for you, Zach. Colton Roby, the best lifting coach in Ohio. Well, thank you, Colton. I appreciate that, buddy. Is there a forever template that you can recommend for peaking before a meet? I'm going to be honest with you. I think peaking before a meet is probably one of the most overrated things in the world. I think the most important thing you can do before a meet is the 16 weeks prior and just training smart and training, good. I would probably ask you to look at there's a bunch of powerlifting specific programs leading up to a meet. There's a couple in the 5-through-1 for powerlifting. And I know there is one on T-Nation too. And I can't remember what that was called, but that would probably lead you where you need to go. But no, I don't think there's a template in forever that I would recommend for peaking before a meet. Guys have to understand, like, for every 100, 200, or 300 regular 5-through-1 books we sell, we probably sell one powerlifting book. So it's really not a big audience. It's a very niche sport. And so I don't really spend too much time. And, if I'm going to be honest, the majority of my time is spent either training young athletes in that area or regular dudes like me and you. And whether that be the barbell or whether that be the walrus stuff, those are my two big things that I really care about right now. All right. Heavyweight. So, okay, here's pig iron dumbbells. They're older loadable dumbbells. Okay. All right. They're just variable dumbbells. Okay, I got you. All right. That was from Taylor Ham. Heavyweight writes, sorry I can't watch the stream, Jim. Just want to say thank you for doing this. And the Dave Tate table talk. I'll watch this after I get off of work. Well, thank you. For those that don't know, I did a table talk I think 2 weeks ago. I think it was just put up this week. of the, I spent time with Dave about 3 hours, and we did a table talk. And as always, you know, it was just a bunch of dudes talking, and I don't even remember what we talked about. You guys have to understand that Dave and I have known each other, and I want to say, like many of you, I think of before 9/11 and after 9/11, and I definitely knew Dave before 9/11. And so I've known him a long time. And, you know, I knew of Dave prior to actually meeting him. If anyone remembers the old Deep Squatter site where Dave used to answer questions. So I had read, and obviously I read all that stuff that Louis had put out, which was also on Deep Squatter. And so, you know, I've known Dave for a long time, and it's crazy. Like as you get older, you realize, you know, for me, it was, you know, what an amazing chance that he gave me. And he took a huge chance on me. He had no reason to trust in me. And it was really awesome because, you know, Elite FTS was fairly, obviously very new at the time. And it was just kind of like we were going into the unknown together, obviously with his wife, Tracy, who's a co-owner of Elite FTS. But it was a really odd time because we were both training at Westside. You know, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we'd go lift at 9 in the morning at Westside and come into work a little late. We'd stay a little later. And it was real bare bones, man. Me and Dave would be, you know, Dave would be doing a lot of, obviously, the business stuff, but I was packaging stuff up, and he'd come help me when the orders were too high, and it was just and we didn't have air conditioning. So in the summertime, it was me and Dave, you know, 270, 300-pound dudes packaging stuff up with our shirts off, sweating our asses off. So, all right, here we go. Joe King writes, when upping the conditioning, would you eliminate the lower body assistance work? The answer would be, that's obviously this is very general, but I would say yes. And I would probably, because when you're upping the condition, I'm assuming you're going to be doing some running, some prowler and stuff. And essentially I kind of put that, at least for normal people, I kind of use that as like their single leg style assistance work. And you just need less lower body work if you're doing all that conditioning stuff. So, yes, and then what I would do is I wouldn't eliminate the single leg core from your training. I would just do more abdominal work and some low back work, but I mostly stick with abdominal work if you're going to up your conditioning. So there you go. Okay, which template would you run to balance out my arm wrestling specific strength template? He's hitting forearm and elbow flexors 3 times a week. My goal is to build general strength and size. I would probably just recommend the triumvirate. So you pick 1 main exercise per day and 2 assistance exercises, and then like whatever little stuff you might need to do outside of that. So it would be, you know, if you're training your forearm and elbow flexors 3 times a week, that still is a stressor. I assume you're doing other things to prepare. So I'd keep the actual GPP stuff, the general barbell stuff. I'd probably keep the volume fairly low instead of trying to go, you know, absolute ape shit on that stuff. Because you have to account for everything when you're training. All right. So you can't just do, you know, prepare for a powerlifting meet while you're preparing for a arm wrestling specific strength program, while you're trying to become a bodybuilder, while you're trying to pass the ruck test for the Rangers. All right. It just doesn't do like that. So I'd probably lift 3 days a week, you know, and then work on a 9-day schedule, maybe 2 to 3 at most assistance exercises. Okay, Steven Mazajewski. Steven, I assume you're Polish. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm probably not. Mazajewski. Okay, Jim, my busy season is coming for work, and he travels, and I want to stay consistent. What movements would you consider non-negotiable if I'm running on little time rest during weeks that I travel? Now, I'm going to assume 2 things. We'll work from both ends. So Stephen, I would assume, let's say the first assumption is you have access to some kind of weight room. So if I were you, and I told this to a kid that I used to work with yesterday, you have to, so if, remember, you're going bananas, you pick at least one lower body big exercise. That could be the squat, the deadlift, the trap bar, or something like that. Pick one. Pick one main pressing exercise, bench press, overhead press, I guess incline press could be there, or whatever. Pick one. And then pick one major upper body pulling exercise. For most people, this would be pull-ups or chin-ups. And I think those, whatever the three you choose, those are the non-negotiables, okay? Non-negotiables. So you want to raise those things up. Essentially, how I would treat this, Stephen, is your busy season is what I would call your in-season training, like how we train in season at London. So to give you an idea, our in-season training at London is we lift twice a week. One day is bench press. The other day is trap bar. We do pull-ups and chin-ups on both days. And then we keep one or two assistance exercises per day after that. And then that's all we do. So just understand, Stephen, when you're got work, travel, and all that other stuff, that is a stressor. And so some days I would say, listen, bare minimum twice a week, bare minimum, your one main exercise for lower body, one main press, and one main pull. And I think you'd be good to go. So the other thing is, let's say, hey, I don't have access to the weight room. I would probably put body weight squats, push-ups, some kind of easy abdominal work that you can do, in your hotel room. And then hopefully you can find somewhere to do some kind of pull-up and chin-up. And I would, if that's what you have, I would try to do something every single day. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be 150 squats, 100 push-ups, and 50 pull-ups. And I try to get that in every single day. So that's if you don't have access to the weight room. So I hope that answers your question, Stephen. Just remember, your busy season is your in-season. Treat it as such and be smart with the volume that you do. You don't have to pound yourself into the ground all the time. Okay, this is Jamizi 312. I lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What are your thoughts on doing 3 full body versus running a 4-day template and bleeding over? I am 36 years old, and I was wondering if I should be doing a 3-day template. Okay, so this is obviously my personal preference, and this is one of the non-negotiables I have when I'm training the kids, and even when I'm training myself. We only always do one main lift a day. So, for example, if for whatever reason we can't lift on Wednesday, which is when we usually bench, we just won't bench that week. If for whatever reason we have to, Mondays, we can only lift on Monday and Friday, we're not going to try and play catch up. We're not going to try and add a lift in. We stick with the schedule. And I have found that I'd rather have every kid focused 1,000% on the one thing that we're doing on that day, at that time, and rather than trying to do a bunch of stuff right. So if I were you, I would recommend one main lift a day. Now, you can still do full body training. Your full body, though, will be in the form of assistance lifts. For example, on the days that you perform the squat, you can still do some dips or dumbbell pressing. You can still do some rows and stuff like that. So if you want it, you can still do 3 days a week. You can still have a full body thing. It's just that the main lift will just be one main lift. So you won't bench and squat on the same day or deadlift and press. Doesn't mean that you can't do it. I just don't like doing that. I like to keep everything as focused and as simple as possible with a clear-cut goal of what the training's supposed to be. Okay, RNC writes, what assistance exercises should be prioritized during boring but big? So if you're going to do boring but big, the main assistance work that I would have people do is some kind of chin-up, pull-up, or lat pull-down in some kind of row. That could be whatever you want, but preferably a single-arm dumbbell row any kind of chest supported row. And like obviously you can do like some kind of machine row, like a hammer strength row. And I would also probably add in some kind of abdominal work. Those three things would be kind of massive priorities. Other than that, I don't think maybe face pulls would come in there. You can also do barbell curls or any kind of dumbbell curls, but those would be the big things, 1,000%. Robert says, any advice for 60-plus-year-old lifters? Some say keeps reps low and weight high, and others say keep reps high and weight low. Any advice would be appreciated. Well, this is where I differ from just about everyone, and I don't think I think this is really good advice. I think you have to use basically kind of a Prilipin's chart to this. So your reps will be low, and the weight will be low to medium. So as an example, let's say you can do, I don't know, 10 reps at 300 pounds on whatever lift. I'd rather have you do 3 to 4 sets of 3 to 5 really awesome, dead-ass balls, awesome reps at 300. That way there's less stress on your joints. Less stress on your central nervous system. Things won't hurt as much. So I'm kind of best of both worlds. And so what you do is you keep those main lifts strong and powerful and crisp, and then let the assistance work build your hypertrophy. Let those reps be higher. Let them be a little bit harder because it's much less stressful on your body. And guys, I'm not, doing any kind of breaking new ground here. This is essentially what Louis Simmons has talked about for years and other people. So as an example, if you're going to use the 5-3-1 program, I actually wrote all about this on our forum, and I don't have all the numbers in front of me. But basically on your 3x5 week, I think you want to aim for about 15 to 25 total reps, and you never go over 5 reps. So you can do as many as, you do 5 sets of 5 or just, 5 sets of 3, something like that. So that the barbell lifts, the volume is a little bit lower, but the reps are better. That's my best advice. All right. Use the assistance work, guys, to bring up your conditioning, or not conditioning, but use your just general hypertrophy and fitness, and let the main lifts be awesome. And magically, that's kind of how athletes train too. Don't tell anyone the secrets. All right. Spike says, hey, Jim, I'm running first set last currently for squat. I am doing front squat. I am not able to squat the weight. If I'm not able to squat the weight of the given percentage of that week, what first set last, what should I do? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Are you doing, so your first set last is front squats, but your main lift is just regular squat? I assume that's, so I would probably take off each first set last, I would take off 10 to 15% and then go with those numbers, if that's what you're asking. So instead of maybe doing, 5 sets of 5 at 70%, I would do 5 sets of 5 at 55%. And then again, I think these numbers that you're asking are big on the back squat, and then just take off 10 to 15% and use the front squat as your supplemental work. So let's see here. Why do you recommend against running the full body templates for more than 2 to 3 cycles in your book forever? So I think it just starts to run you down. I'm just not a huge fan of running multiple big lifts. That's just me. I don't like it. It can be done, I guess, but I don't even have our younger kids doing it. So that's why. Eric says, I know you mentioned about capping sets on main lifts for your kids. Yes. Do you cap the reps on assistance? Do you ever let them push for assistance to muscular failure for hypertrophy? Yes. Now, you don't need to go to failure for hypertrophy. What's up, buddy? So yes, what we use the assistants for is, I've talked about a lot about this on the forum is, first of all, the kids in the high school, even when they go to failure, they're not really going to failure because they don't understand where it is. They don't understand how to push a set. And that's just, as everyone here knows, intern and intramuscular coordination is not very high. So yes, we use the assistants work, not all the time, but we use that as a way of showing them how to push themselves, and it's much safer. We obviously don't do it for every single lift, but it's a great way to teach the kids how to push themselves past a point of discomfort. And you have to understand that, you're a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid, all of a sudden, if your arm's a little tired, you freak out. You just don't understand. Like, listen, you got 10 more reps in you. And that's why when you're coaching, you have to coach a kid through a lift and tell them, it's okay. This is normal. So yes, we do. And now obviously not we don't do that every time. I'm not going to ask the kid to dumbbell squat until he drops the dumbbell on his foot. That's not very smart. So there's a time and place for it. All right. Colm Rigney. Wow, that's an interesting name. If that is indeed your name, Colm. That's C-O-L-M, by the way. Hey, Jim, when running the Morning Star, do you think chins, dips, and something like reverse lunges could be done as assistants every day, or should there be a bit more variability to the assistants? Generally speaking, Colm, I think you should vary your assistants. There's a time and place to keep things really simple and non-negotiable, but for the most part, I think you need to vary stuff up. I think you're going to be a better lifter. I think your body will feel better when you have some kind of variability. So that doesn't mean you can't use that a lot of the time. I just think, listen, man, do some step-ups. Put on a heavy vest, man, and do 200 or 300 step-ups per leg. Just do it. It's awesome for you. Instead of doing dips, take a pair of dumbbells, whatever weight you can, do 15 or 20 reps in, and put them on your thighs, and you got 10 minutes to do as many reps as possible. Add some variables in your training, guys. Have some fun with the assistant work. Be creative, all right? Don't just do 3 to 4 sets and call it a day. That's when you can have the most creativity and fun, and man, I love doing stuff like that. John Donovan says, do you do any type of massage therapy, cold or hot water therapy, to help out with recovery? No. I don't train hard enough to need any of that stuff. I do take I take a couple, probably 2 showers a day because of training and stuff like that. And I always take a shower in the morning, and I always do about a minute of cold water in my second shower. And, but I don't really do it for recovery. I do it just to do something very, very uncomfortable, because I lead a very comfortable, easy life, as most of us do. And that's more for me mentally than it has anything to do with physically. But I don't train hard enough to need any of that. I mean, I train like an hour and a half a day, maybe. And that's not really, let's face it, guys, an hour and a half. Like I used to practice was 2 hours, and we lift for an hour, back in the day. And that's way harder than doing some squats and push-ups and chin-ups and dips and all that other good stuff, pulling a sled, pushing a sled. So advice on progressing assistance work. Well, you can always do more reps, do more sets with assistance work. I don't think it's always great to have a plan, because your plan's going to change all the time. So yeah, I mean, I think your body's going to tell you a lot of that stuff, and I think you need to be adaptable to your training day. I don't think your assistance work, in theory, it may work, say I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and then X, Y, Z plus 5, but it doesn't work like that in the real world. At least it won't work for very long. Let's see here. My preference on increasing volume at same weight over the 5-3-1 weeks during a cycle, or would you keep the volume the same and increase the weight over the weeks? You can do both. I don't think there's one way that's better than the other. And that's why you should have some variables within your assistance. And again, some days you feel like you can do X, and other days, man, you're like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. And again, that's why, guys, training is as much art as it is science. You have to learn how to read your body, and you obviously have to learn how to push your body, but there's certain times you got to back off. And that's why when we do the assistance, we may give you parameters, but a lot of those things have to change. So my advice is be creative, push when you push, when you can, back off when you have to, and your body will tell you. And you have to learn how to read your body, guys. That's all part of this whole training world. Is you have to learn, and you have to learn how. And your body's going to give you different signals as you get older, as you get stronger, as you gain weight, as you lose weight. So nothing really stays the same. And what works one day is not going to work, the next cycle. So that's why you have to learn how to read your body, and then you'll understand the science. So, all right. Let's see here. Could you explain the concept of submaximal lifting as opposed to many plans that suggest lifting to or almost failure? I'm not really understanding that question. Submaximal lifting is, as you point out, it's lifts that are less than your max. Listen, like my wife has found this out when she trains the junior high kids at London. I have found this out. When you're training young kids, it's best to build and develop that base, and it may take a long time doing the same weights. I'd rather have them do really good reps than have them pushing to failure or handling maximal weights. Our kids generally seem to do better, even in the short term, by always handling weights that they are able to absolutely mentally and physically handle perfectly. And their bodies and their minds aren't ready to train to failure. And they not only are they lacking the mental strength, but they're lacking all the other little things that go into pushing a set of squats or pushing a set of bench presses or deadlifts. So we are giving them the correct tools, i.e. we're giving them the correct weight on the barbell for them to perform the reps with perfect form, with confidence, and they're always set up to win. All right. The more times you can take a kid, especially a young man, I can't explain how important this is. You set the kids up, you build self-esteem, guys, by giving kids tough physical things that are challenging, but they can do, and they just start stacking wins. Even if to you it may look very easy, or to you, they can do it, they don't know. And so you just give them a little extra. You tell them, like, listen, I believe in I know you can do this. They do it. And then that little win of the day builds and builds and builds. And pretty soon they're doing amazing things over the next couple of years. All right. So that's why we do that. And again, we're just building, we want the widest base we can possible. We're not just looking to build the peak, guys. We're building to widen the base. And I always like to say it. We try to, instead of trying, God, I wish I could think, what do we say? We don't try to raise the ceiling, guys. We try to raise the floor. All right. That's the simplest way I can put it. And one of the ways to raise the floor is to sub-maximal lifting so that the reps are always perfect. And it just works. That's how it works. I don't know how else to tell you. Okay. Blake says, Jim, thanks for all the information. Your program helped me hit 1,000 pounds before I hit 30 years old. I'm switching to boring but big. Any concerns with incline bench and hex bar deadlift as substitutes? No. If that's what you want to do, or you have an injury, my only beef with the incline bench is I always sucked at it, and I was a better presser, like overhead press, than I was a incline bencher, and my bench always stunk. So, but I was always bad at the incline. So that's my own personal beef. But no, if you want to do those, it's a big barbell lift. You're using a big range of motion. It's fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Steven. Okay. I did pronounce your last name correctly. That's good. All right. All right. Julian writes, should I do 5 sets of 10 boring but big for conventional deadlift? Should you? You can. But I don't know your situation. If you have it, listen, the fact that you're asking this question probably means you shouldn't do it. So if I were you, do 5 sets of 5 at first set last for boring but big, and let your back rest a little bit until you feel confident that you're able to do it. And the fact, like I said, the fact that you're asking the question tells me that you're not ready for it. As I'm sure many of you have seen the movie, oh my God, I'm blanking on this movie, Ronin. One of the characters says, if there is a doubt, there is no doubt. So until you're ready to not ask that question, Julian, 5 sets of 5 at your first set last weight for the conventional deadlift. Zafrican Basic says, I'm doing one day off, total body training, same exercises every time. Okay. Kind of like Husker football training. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking here. Listen, there's an art. I don't think you can do one day off, one day on, one day off of that stuff if you're doing it right. You can maybe do 3 days a week, and you're going to have to be very audible ready to make changes every day. That's been my experience when I did the Husker, Nebraska football metabolic style training. So I would be very hesitant to tell you to do one day on, one day off, because I think your performance will suffer unless you're able to read your body and make the correct decisions on the loading, which is very difficult if you're not ready to do that. Steven says, hey, Jim, I'm doing the triumvirate, but the 5 sets of assistance work beats me up. I usually do 3 sets. Would you add some body weight exercises to add some more volume? I'm 50 years old and I've been training for 30 plus years. Listen, Steven, you already answered your question, buddy. Just do the 3 sets and be good. You're fine. Train those 3 sets hard. Like I know, dude, you've been training for 30 years. You know how to push a set. The older you get, the less kind of sets you need to do sometimes on some of this assistance work, because you know how to push yourself and you know where your breaking point is. I think you're good to go, buddy. Just stick with the 3 sets. You don't have to add any exercise to add some more volume unless you feel like you really need it. But don't get caught in that I need a ton of volume stuff. Your body needs what it needs, man. And when you've been training for 30 years, you'd be surprised at how little you need to do, but you need to concentrate on the quality of the reps. That's the most important thing. So when you're pushing on the assistance work, just make sure the reps are quality. You don't need to do more. You've already paid the price, my friend. Live off the interest. All right. So Taylor says, hey, I just received some news. I may be returning back to the Army. I literally just got this email. I have about 1 year to get the answer. I don't know what that means. My current PT test is a 2-mile run, 2-minute push-ups, 2-minute sit-ups, 12 chin-ups. Any recommendation? I also think there is a trap bar deadlift for the combat fitness test. That's Will. I don't know about that one. I never really trained anyone. I mean, when I went to the Air Force Academy, we had to take all that stuff, but I was in really good shape when I was young, so I never even trained for any of that stuff. I don't know where you currently are. I don't know where your running is. What I would do is if you've got a year to get ready, I would take yourself through a mock test and see where you're weak. And I would just do that. Like if I was, for example, in someone in my shoes, my strength is fine. So I would just work on the running. I'd work on where you're weakest, and actual lifting, like strength stuff, I'd obviously want to maintain that. I don't think you need to do any more than 2 days a week. with the lifting. And then if you're weak on the running or weak on some area, you don't want to just do it every day. You have to let your body adapt to that stuff. So again, I don't know where you're weak for, and I haven't really, where you're weak at, like what test you really stink. And again, that's not really my forte, so to speak. Luca says, what do you think about having squat day, bench day, and deadlift day for a natural lifter? I'm not sure what that means, Luca. I always recommend one main lift a day. So if that's what you want to do, I think that's fine. I'm not sure what being a natural lifter has to do with it. So anyway, okay. Yes, you're fine, Luca. What are the staple exercises for the kids at London this year? Oh, there's my cat here. Look at that ding dong. All right, my staple exercises, the staple exercises are what we always do. We do the bench press, the squat, and bench press, squat, and the trap bar, and we do a lot of pull-ups and chin-ups. Those are the 4 main exercises. And obviously we do a ton of assistance work too, but those are always the 4 lifts that we try to increase. And so even during the in-season, we don't squat in season, but those 4 lifts, even during the season, we try to raise up. So yes. Walter says, I did a kettlebell deck of cards today. Ooh, goblet squats, swings, and I don't know what SDL, single deadlift create. Okay, man, that stinks. I'm not sure what SDL means though. But yes, those are miserable workouts. They're fun to do. Obviously, you don't want to do that stuff every day, but anytime you take a deck of cards and challenge yourself, it's fun to do, especially for your assistance work. Aaron says, thank you for all the valuable information, Jim. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I'm 27 years old, he continues, and I'm following your stuff the past 11 years, studying sports science and health, and always learning and returning to the basics. Well, that's good. Enjoy your time. You're going to learn a lot of cool stuff, and you'll learn a lot of stuff that's dumb, and you have to be able to sift through that and just keep training and keep coaching. Because you'll learn a lot just from yourself and watching other people. And I can tell you that the last 8 years or so I've been at London, I've learned more about training and coaching than I ever thought possible. So the more that you're in the, on the front line, so to speak, the more you're going to learn. You'll learn way more there than you will anywhere else. So Emil says, do you ever read Instagram DMs, or should I contact you on email? I try to read most of the Instagram stuff. I don't always remember to do that stuff. And you can contact I don't have an email. My wife does through the store, wendlerstore@gmail.com. But she answers a lot of that stuff too. I'm not sure what you're asking, but yeah, feel free to ask in either place. Could you please explain first set, last FSL as if I'm a 5-year-old? Well, I wouldn't explain that to a 5-year-old. It's when you, after you get your main stuff done, you go down to the first set of that 5-3-1 week, and you perform usually 5 sets of 5, and that'll be the last thing you do with the barbell. So you do 70%, 80%, 90%, and then go back down to 70% for the prescribed sets and reps. Okay. Coco Loco says, where to start with metal music? I would like to get to know it at least a little bit. Thanks in advance. I'd probably just start with stuff that's very easy to, to tolerate, so to speak. Early Metallica and Slayer. That's probably where I would start. But I don't know. I don't really know much modern metal stuff. It's not that I'm just an old curmudgeon. I just don't really keep up with it. But that stuff is, they write good songs. They don't write these it's not like it's neurosis where you have to kind of understand what they're doing. And I would never point you to like death metal or black metal or anything like that, which is hard to stomach for a lot of people. So yeah, Metallica, Slayer. Metallica, I'd probably start with Master of Puppets. Slayer, I'd probably start with like Seasons in the Abyss or South of Heaven. So there you go. Julian says, do you suggest to do one FSL plus one Boyne but big, such as pause squats for 5 sets of 5 and RDLs for Boyne? No, you choose one. You choose one supplemental thing per day if you choose anything at all. You don't start combining stuff. That's bad news. If you have to do that, you're not doing the stuff correctly. Thoughts on, I don't know what that word is, nuisance? I don't have any thoughts on something I don't know. So sorry, brother. All right. We don't have a lot of time here. So is there any suggest accessories for deadlift day if I only have a dumbbell and a barbell? Well, on deadlift day, like we usually train full body stuff. So I think you're just looking for general lower body assistance work. So obviously you can do dumbbell squats. You can do devil's press. You can do dumbbell clean and press, straight leg deadlifts, RDLs with barbells and dumbbells. You can obviously do power clean, hang clean, power snatch, hang snatch, straight leg deadlifts. I don't know if I already said that. Good mornings. And obviously any kind of single leg movements can be done. You don't even sometimes need a dumbbell or barbell for that. So obviously stuff like step ups and lunges and single leg Bulgarian squats or whatever people call them. So, and obviously you can do a bunch of abdominal work, which I think most people need. So you obviously don't need a barbell or dumbbell for that. So, yeah, there's a ton of stuff. Most people don't have much, at least guys who have home gyms, they don't have any access to anything other than maybe a barbell, and they still get it done. So you'll be all right, buddy. Michael Donnelly says, what are your thoughts on high intensity training for accessory work? Basically 1 set to failure for each exercise, basically. I think it's good to do, but it's not going to last forever. So if you want to do like a 4 or 6 week block of training 1 hard set to failure, I think it's great. I think it's important that you learn how to train like that. I think it's important to learn how to push yourself. I think that's a learned activity. I've seen it in myself and others. Again, we talked about this training to failure for our high school kids, and they have to learn how to do that. So you need to learn how hard to push and that you can push a lot harder than you really thought. So, yeah, I think it works, but the problem is it doesn't work very forever because it's just hard to maintain. So there you go. Chim says, hey, Jim, I have a question about something I saw online involving you. There was a guy who got into a car wreck, and he said you helped him quite a bit. He said that if you do 5 cycles and go back 3 and keep repeating that pattern, you will never fail. I was wondering if that was true. All right, so you're probably talking about Caleb. I've known Caleb for, I don't know, 20 years now. I used to train him a little bit when he was in high school, and he went off to college and he ended up being in a really bad car wreck. I think he was like in a coma and just not in a good place. And he contacted me. This was probably 2012 or something. I saw that he was in an accident, and I reached out to him and I said, listen, once you get back on your feet, you're welcome to train here in the gym. And I gave him an ultimatum, basically said, listen, if you're going to train here, we're going to train twice a week. And you're going to follow everything I do. And he was in a horrible shape. I mean, just his body was just obviously beat up. And we started like, people say they start with the barbell. He couldn't even start with the barbell. And that's how much his body had been just decimated by the accident. And I think he never missed a workout, was always on time. We trained in the garage through some incredibly hot days and incredibly cold days. The 5 forward, 3 back, it'll work for a little bit. It's obviously not going to work forever. If that was the case, then guys would have done that and be squatting 60,000 pounds. The problem that I think what that solves is it kind of keeps you from overstepping the bounds, and it helps raise your floor and not your ceiling. Too many people are too worried about what their max number is rather than widening their base of just general strength and fitness. And with Caleb, for example, because he was in such a bad state, we just really had to raise his base level of fitness. That's what I call that. That's strength, that's hypertrophy, all that other stuff. So we had to get pretty creative with his body and what he was able to do. His preparedness and readiness was obviously very low, so we had to cut back on a lot of stuff. And we trained twice a week, and he made tremendous progress. And if I'm going to be completely honest, that was all him, because he came in and he did the work. So there you go. But yeah, the 5 forward, 3 back, yes, you're going to fail eventually, but it does keep you fairly honest. DB says, is 5-1 for football book still available? I don't think it is. So I think that was sold at Elite FTS. So Marcus Benhoff says, do your players squat and trap bar deadlift on the same day? Hell no, they will never, ever do that. We squat on one day and trap bar on the other day. We only do one main lift per day, guys. One main lift. So we always have some kind of warm-up that we do. We call it pre-practice. And then depending on what I see, we will do, movement stuff and jumping stuff. Again, this is obviously based on their readiness for the day and what I see. But generally speaking, we always do one main lift, and we do assistance work, and then we run. That's just the base off-season style of training. So, but we don't even do squat and bench on the same day. We do one main lift. We kick ass at that lift. Everything is on a timer. Every set is done on a timer. It's very militant. We don't just give kids a workout and say, do the workout. Every set and rep is just dialed in, and that's how we do stuff. That's how you become an efficient football team too. You don't just leave them go and on their own, because you'll have half the guys farting around. Some of the kids won't really know what to do, stuff like that. So, all right. Julian says, as a beginner of 5-1, do you suggest doing first set last over boring but big? Boring, yeah, I would recommend doing that if I was a beginner. Yes. Emil says, I know you're not a fan of dieting, but I'm planning to do a carnivore diet in February. How would you recommend adjusting training for this change? Listen, I don't know what's going to happen to your body when you do this. Just understand, whenever you add in a new stressor or wrinkle, man, you got to be ready to make some changes with your training. And I don't know how your body's going to react. So just be prepared. Your strength may be fine. It may go up, or it may take a giant dump. You just better be ready, and don't get frustrated, because obviously you're doing this for another reason. It's not to bench press 500 pounds, obviously. So you're going to have to be smart about that and just keep the goal. And just understand that you can always come back and adjust whatever you need to do later. But whenever people are, cutting calories or doing anything like that, that has to be your goal. You can't have your goal to, get to be 5% body fat and then still squat, 1,200 pounds. All right. It's just not how it works. Keep the goal and be okay with whatever happens. If not, then you don't really care about the goal, because if you have a true goal you want, you'll do whatever it takes and suffer any kind of consequence or anything like that to get there. If not, then it's not really a goal. So I don't know how else to tell you that. That's just the way it goes, people. Okay, we got a couple more questions here. My program is 2 to 3 days a week. Zercher squat, bench press, 8 to 10 doubles or triples in dumbbell row. The rest of the days are hiking, pull-ups, and push-ups. Opinion, please. Thank you. I don't know. Saying you do 8 to 10 doubles or triples tells me absolutely nothing. Zero. Because that could be at 60%, 70%, 80%. It could be up and down. I don't know how you program it. So, but if those are the exercises that you want to do, I would probably recommend a little more variety in your training. Uh-oh. That's one of James's friends. I'm good. Hey, I'm doing this now, buddy. All right. Can you go just tell him a couple minutes here?
All right, in a few minutes, okay?
I'm going live here, buddy. Yep. All right, so but just Harry, if that's what you want to do, fine. But just understand, I don't know what 8 to 10 doubles means or anything like that. So again, when I see people say, listen, when you're like, you see these in magazines all the time. Like, hey, when you squat, you're doing 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps. What the hell does that mean? I don't know what that means. It's ridiculous. It's the worst program I've ever seen in my life. I can't stand stuff like that. I'm not saying that you did that, Harry. I just can't stand that shit. You got to give me some recommendations. All right. Raymond says, would you still recommend programming the clean before you squat or deadlift? Generally, yes. Yes. So you would do a general warm-up, whatever that would mean for you. Something to kind of get your body ready, and then you would do the clean or the snatch or something like that, and then you would squat or deadlift. So fast before slow. Con Vito says 531 Boeing but big feels too easy. Any suggestions? Well, because training is not supposed to feel hard all the time, and I have to see you do the reps too, because it's very rare that I see anyone do the reps the way that I demand our kids do their reps. And so if your reps aren't 1,000% perfect and explosive, then you're not doing training right. That's just the way I feel about it. So if it's too easy, remember it's not supposed to run you in the ground, and make sure your reps are without reproach, can withstand any kind of criticism with bar speed, with control, with body position, all that stuff. Every rep should be done with intention, with absolute fucking hate and anger, guys. I see way too many people. I don't know if this is like a symptom of the times, but they're training like they're in physics class or something. Like, you gotta give some effort, guys. Come on, you're killing me here, Smalls. All right, it is past 11 o'clock. I will answer if anyone's got one more little question I got to throw on here, but we are going to get running. And his mom said, don't get on camera. Ding dong. So anyway. All right. So last question here. What's your opinion on Mike Menser and his style of training for hypertrophy? His methods seem to have seen a resurgence. Well, the high intensity training has been around forever. We had talked about this earlier today a couple times. Again, I think it's applicable for some people. I think can be done for short periods of time, but I don't know if it's long-term sustainable. So that's just been my experience with it, and I don't know if his methods have seen a resurgence. There's just probably someone posting about it. So again, it's another wrinkle. You can go ahead and give it a shot. All right, here we go. When I ran 5 through 1 boring but big on Boost Camp, I don't know what the hell that is. The 5 sets of 10 were really easy, so I did paused variations on the squat and bench, stiff leg deadlifts, behind that press, everything explosive. All right. What's your Popeyes order? Always get thighs and legs, and I always get spicy. I haven't eaten at Popeyes in so long. I don't know what this guy says. Are you able to look up Sun's program? I don't know what any of that stuff is. I really want to see what you think of it. It's loosely based on 5 through 1 and it's high volume. If it works for you, man, go ahead and do it. Good times. I don't really care what other people are doing. And but if you want to do it, you don't need my permission to do something. If it works for you, good times. I don't know what the hell this stuff is. Man, it's a weird world out there. All right, last question. Using walrus training and some variation, but not too much for building body back up and burn some fat and get conditioned. Really love it. There's like something strange on you. Thank you for your insights and shared wisdom. Rob, I love it. I'm a big fan of using that. Again, get your warm up in, get your jumps, get your throws, smoke those awesome barbell lifts, put on a weight vest, get in a kick-ass training session. Doesn't have to kill you, but get a large variety of movements and get your body back and get your body ready to kick some ass, man. I'm a huge fan of that. Doesn't mean you should do it all the time or, you know, is appropriate for everyone, but if you can do it, man, if I could go back in time and, you know, had all the equipment, all the knowledge, man, the majority, a big chunk of my sports training would be that one main lift, just awesome, always doing sub-maximal. Every rep is dialed in, repeating cycles, really owning every single set and rep, owning every single weight, being incredibly patient, and then putting on the weight vest and having different challenges, rope climbs, push-ups, dips, bodyweight squats, dumbbell squats, some kettlebell stuff, lunges, obviously pull-ups, chin-ups, rows, stuff like that. So, all right, we are good to go, people. It's time for me to go. I got to go train. Again, I had to cut my training a little short to get on here, so I'm going to go do my thing. Anyway, guys, you have an awesome weekend. If it snows where you guys are, enjoy the time with your kids or your wife. Go out and walk in the snow and enjoy the cold weather. It's good for the heart, good for your soul, all that other good stuff. So anyway, you guys have a great weekend. Do something dumb if you can, but don't kill yourself. But if you got something going on, you want to push some stupid conditioning test, now's the time to do it, guys. And thank you, everyone, for showing up. I really appreciate all the questions in the chat because that's what drives this. Love you guys. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate everyone. Have a great weekend.